Welcome back for another episode of Hospitality Investor News Desk at IHIF Asia. We are talking about a number of exciting and emerging destinations in the region these next few days. But clearly, across the globe, there is one destination which is creating a lot of excitement and which has gone to market with ambitious plans, and frankly, probably none other more so than Saudi Arabia. So I'm delighted to be here with Mahmoud Abdulhadi, who's a deputy minister with the Saudi Ministry of Tourism. Mahmoud, welcome.
Alexi, it's very good to be here, and it's very good to see you again.
Good to see you again, as always. So listen, there's a lot of interest and a lot of excitement. Before we go there, for those that don't know, in 2015, you announced a Vision 2030 plan with some very, frankly, ambitious goals at that time. Could you give an update as to what those goals were, and how you're performing against those goals here by the time in 2025?
Absolutely. I mean, look, Vision 2030 was a major program that aimed to reshape the Saudi economy, made a great effort into diversifying that economy away from pure hydrocarbons. Tourism was a key pillar. We set some very bold and ambitious targets for ourselves for 2030. They initially were 100 million visitors. To create 1 million additional jobs in the sector, taking the total workforce to about 1.6 million, and for tourism to become the second largest contributor after the hydrocarbon sector to our GDP with a 10% contribution. 2023 saw us hit 109 million visitors, 106, 109 million visitors. So we hit our target 7 years in advance. Because we are who we are, because we are as ambitious as we are, we upped our target by 50% to 150 million.
Okay.
On the GDP front, we're now at a very good 5%. And we're on target to get to the levels that we want to get by 2030. And on the jobs front, we're over 950,000 jobs, up from our starting point of 600,000. So we are well on our way to achieving that 1.6 million jobs in the sector. So far, so good. And more broadly, 10 years on from the launch of the Vision 2030 program, as I mentioned in my keynote earlier today, Saudi Arabia is in a very, very strong position. We are the largest economy in the Middle East by far.
Yeah.
Our capital markets has grown. We are the 9th largest capital market globally. And we are 62% of all of the region combined. So it's a major financial powerhouse. We're growing at above global averages at about 3.6, 3.9% projected by the IMF for this year and next year. So, the basics, the fundamentals are there. The tourism sector is booming, and it's a really good time to be there.
Yeah, and so clearly you've already surpassed those ambitious goals that you had set forth back in 2015. You've done that early. You've reset those targets for even more ambitious goals. There's a lot of excitement around what are some of the Giga projects and more of the well-known projects that have been funded and really have been conceived and supported by the government. But there's also a vibrant private sector involved in investing and operating in tourism. Can you share some highlights there?
Absolutely. I mean, look, the PIF projects or the Giga projects are fairly unique. I mean, they had a very clear mission, is to redefine tourism, not just in the kingdom, but globally. Yeah. So producing a new product that appealed to a wide range of people at a level of excellence that hadn't been seen before. And that was the commitment, and that was the promise we made ourselves, is that we will reimagine tourism. However, there is a fundamental component of any tourism industry, which is the private sector. Because without the private sector, whether we're talking about the hotel investments, the real estate investors, or even the smaller destination management companies, the tour guides, the tour operators, if that ecosystem doesn't work, you don't necessarily have tourism. So that has been the mission of the ministry, is to make sure we're able to enable the private sector to come into the space successfully, deliver on our ambition for raising the bar in terms of what is offered, putting in high quality product, be it on the hospitality side, be it on the destination side, be it on the tour guides. Anything we touch or anything our private sector needs to touch has got to be a high quality product.
Yeah.
And we've done that through enabling them, through incentive programs, through easing of regulation, through cutting of levies and government levies, through cutting red tape, essentially, through helping guide and matchmaking with local investors, with international operators, or local centers of excellence with international potential investors that come in. So it's created a vibrant ecosystem, and as a result, we've seen over 50 new operators and brands that have entered the market, and we've seen over 40 large-scale investors that have come in, particularly on the real estate side. But we've also seen a number much bigger than that when it comes to the small SMEs that have benefited from this tourism industry. So again, the steps we've taken are really yielding results, and to underpin that key element of creating employment.
Yeah, and it is truly incredible, the destination development from concept to building of infrastructure to then building into the demand side as well. And the fact that the government is behind this in terms of its vision 2030 is the benefit to a private sector investor, that they can then tap into that newly built brand new infrastructure and benefit from the development that the government is putting into it?
Oh, absolutely. And you could see this from two perspectives. So in places where there are projects in large urban areas like Abha, for example, we are redeveloping that core infrastructure in the center of Abha. So obviously the primary beneficiary will be the big projects and the tourism scene within that. But it's only natural for the area around it to also benefit in a very positive way. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is, ultimately, when you build a tourism sector, you're building an ecosystem. And if people come or visitors come for one product, they will be going to see other things. And these projects are a product in a large market. So ultimately, once we start creating the draw, visitors will want to go and explore other things and other opportunities which present themselves for the private sector. That's another lens. A third lens is, ultimately, basic services will need to be provided for. So, travel companies, tour operators, tour guides, cars, transport, whatever, laundry services, F&B, all of this will benefit from these investments and these projects. So again, we're seeding the ecosystem and then allowing the ecosystem to be built around that.
It's incredible. And you and I talked about this a couple of months ago in New York, about a private market, particularly in real estate, comes in for a certain amount of time as a hold period, and they're looking to benefit from that appreciation of that asset and sweat that asset, drive and net operating income from the operation of it. And then they want to sell it. So they want to enter and they want to exit. Describe how the ministry and the government is supporting private sector in doing that. Is there a vibrant private sector that is also on the buy side?
So we anticipate that the buy side will develop as we go ahead. A lot of the assets that we're developing today are greenfield. We are seeing an emergence of the buy side assets, of sell side assets coming into the market with a willing buy side to come in, particularly for some of the assets that are a little bit older, that require a little bit of investment, renovation, redoing. And that's something that we're seeing now. It's becoming an increased trend. But the vast majority of what we're seeing at the moment is new assets. Now, what we do for both, that serves both of those segments, is making sure that we provide the right market data. So it's an extremely important piece of the puzzle. If you don't have the correct data, it is a higher probability that you will make an incorrect investment decision, be that a new investment, brownfield investment, or a renovation of some sort. So you need to have that right data. So that's a key component. The second piece is making sure that the regulatory piece is in place. It allows you the flexibility to invest. It allows you the flexibility to exit at the right time. And all of that creates the right market. And then finally, the funding. And we have the Tourism Development Fund, who are able to provide funding for these projects. they're able to provide funding products that aid renovation and that aid investment in general in the sector. Plus, we have a very strong banking sector. So again, the pieces of the puzzle are there. While we are slightly at an early stage where a lot of the things are new build and greenfield, but we are seeing an emergence of that secondary market, and signs are positive.
It's important to emphasize that, like any emerging market, as it matures, the early stage developments are longer stage. They are longer investments. That's the profile of that capital that's coming in. But any destination in the world, as it more matures, you then start to get some of that sell side come in to regenerate, recapitalize, and so forth. So you're seeing the very same thing.
Oh, absolutely, and we're seeing that come in. We probably anticipate that the next 5 years we'll see, shall we say, a wave of reinvestment and assets that need to be probably recapitalized or redone, which will see some exits, some new entrants. And that's just natural market.
Indeed. Now, one of the perceptions around tourism in Saudi Arabia has clearly been religious tourism, the Hajj and Mecca and so forth. But that's changing, is it not?
Well, Mecca and Medina are not going to change. So we're going to have people come and flock to Mecca and Medina to do their religious trips, be it Umrah or Hajj. What is changing, and very interestingly, while the whole market is growing, so as I mentioned, we reached 116 million visitors, is the mix. So we're growing across all segments. Previously and historically, pre-2019, it was about a 60-40 split between the religious and non-religious. That split is now reversed. So non-religious accounts for 40% of all visits, and 60% is for non-religious. Most interestingly, leisure is our fastest growing segment. We're talking about nearly 34% of all visits are now leisure, and they contribute to about 28-26% of spend. So it's becoming a very important factor for us. Leisure is where we drive spend, and again, it drives the bottom line and hits that GDP figure in a much more positive way in order for us to get to that 10% GDP. So it's a mix, really. I mean, and that's how we view it, and it's an important part of the mix.
You're saying that religious tourism, it's there, it's not going away, but what you're saying is the leisure is really driving that growth.
More importantly, the religious piece is also evolving. So previously, people would come in for the on a religious trip or to perform the religious duties, Umrah or Hajj, and do nothing else. Now we're seeing an increased trend, which is driving spending behavior of them coming in, or these visitors coming in and then going to other destinations and exploring the country in a way that they were not doing before. And we attribute that to religious spend, but it is in actuality spend on other items.
Interesting. So again, a sign of a maturing market with diverse demand drivers.
Absolutely, and catering for different segments.
Fabulous. You talked about the ecosystem, Deputy Minister, and one of those critical parts of the ecosystem is airlift.
Yes.
For any emerging market, as investment comes in and is looking at hotel development, they're also trying to think, well, how are my guests going to get here? How has the airlift evolved?
So airlift is, as you mentioned, is an important factor. Saudi Arabia is a very large country. We have 3 main hub airports, shall we say, that we have, and we're expanding a lot of our regional and other smaller international airports. But the key thing is that we've had something called the Air Connectivity Program. They're working on setting up new routes, and every year there are new passenger seats added to all parts of the world. I mean, today we're in Hong Kong. We had a new route inaugurated, a direct route from Riyadh to Hong Kong relatively recently.
Nice.
There's been a major expansion in our Chinese routes as well. And again, we're working on making sure that visitors primarily are able to access the market, which will then drive the investment thesis for making sure that we are able to deliver that tailored product to the target markets that we have. The same can be said for Europe and the US, where we are working on increasing that connectivity, making sure that we have enough airline seats to deliver the visitors that we need in order to meet our vision targets.
Well, as a passenger of Saudia, a couple of times now, I can tell you, brand new airplanes, incredible service. And very affordable. I mean, I was delighted. I won't name the airlines that I'm not delighted with, but from a passenger perspective, Saudia was an incredible experience.
They've done a phenomenal job,
Yep.
particularly on improving the level of service that they've had. I mean, they've always been good, but I think they've now taken it to another level. I think Riyadh Air, when it launched later this year, when it launches its first official services later this year, will also be a game-changing airline. And the expansion of the routes through Riyadh Air will be very interesting. So we'll be able to run, as a country, a proper dual hub system out of Jeddah, out of Riyadh. There are also discussions about potentially hubbing some airlines in Dammam. So if we're able to do that, we've got our eastern region, our western region, and our central region, well, Riyadh basically, as a main connector for all of the domestic airlines and across the world as well. Our positioning in Saudi Arabia geographically puts us, in within a 6-hour range of I think it's 60% of the population in the world. So it's very good, very fortunate positioning, and we intend to take full advantage of it.
Yeah. You talked about air connectivity between Riyadh and Asia and China, and some new routes coming in. Well, we're here in Hong Kong, and there's been a lot of excitement. I mean, we are delighted to work with you and the ministry in our event in Berlin, in New York. So you are clearly, connected to the investment global community that we host. But I have to tell you, there's been a palpable excitement here at IHIF Asia. You've had a lot of meeting requests. How are those meetings going? What are the conversations? What are you seeing in terms of the connectivity and the interest from Asia into Saudi Arabia?
So there's a high level of interest, and we are trying to couple this with our strategy for how we access some of the Asian and Indian subcontinent markets, and making sure that we deliver the right product for them now, or for those visitors. And the interest from Asia has been quite strong. It's a relatively new market for Asia as well. It needs a little bit more introduction. But I think over the last 2 days, I think we've completed our 15th meeting just before our interview. Nice. And there's always been, and there is a strong level of interest. I think we started properly addressing the Asian investors last year. I think the good news is that we're having follow-up discussions, but we're also having new inquiries into how to access the market, how can they deliver the product. The great thing about the Asian investors, particularly on the hospitality space, is that there is a strong dedication to quality, a strong dedication to service, which really is something that we're looking for, and it'll help us in our mission to elevate the offering in the kingdom.
Yeah. In Asia, there's a lot of owner-operators that are on the PropCo and the OpCo side, and they're looking to expand beyond Asia. That's been a theme that we've heard here over the last 2 days, and it's from many parts of Asia. If I'm a owner-operator and I'm looking to expand beyond Asia, and I've got 200 to 500 million, where would you suggest I look in Saudi as an initial investment?
Well, it really depends on what you do. So if you are an owner-operator, for example, of large city hotels, definitely at Riyadh, Jeddah are big, important metropolises, but they're also big, important demand drivers that are coming in. So a lot of the events that we host, the World Cup, Formula One, Expo 2030, of course. So these are all big demand drivers that are coming in. So there is a massive opportunity there. If you're more of a niche owner operator, somebody that operates something in the mountains, we've got opportunities for you. If you're a resort operator, we've definitely got opportunities for you on the Red Sea or the Gulf. So again, there's something for everyone. Potentially even ski operators, but we'll see how that works after the Olympics.
We will. We're excited to see that. And we're about on the chain segment. What if I'm a mid-scale operator or even economy? Are those brands and segments that you also have opportunities in?
Like I said, Saudi Arabia is a very big country, so it's there's always going to be room for all of the operators. I think there is a healthy pipeline of luxury and upper-end market product that's coming into the market. I think the mid-market is a very important piece of our story. There's a strong domestic demand that requires it. There's also strong domestic demand for example, products like high quality long stay. So there's a mix of everything for everyone. The important piece is that our guidance, usually on where to invest and how to invest, is very data driven. Yeah. We're very keen to make sure that we don't oversupply our markets. We're very keen to make sure that investors that come in and operators that come in are able to operate sustainably on a profitable basis. And that has to be underpinned by clear market data. We understand our destinations very well. We know where the gaps are, we know where our source markets are coming from, and we know what the spending habits are, and we know what our targets are for each of these. So we guide investors in that light, and hopefully give them all the right tools to make the right decisions for their investments.
Since I've known you, which has been 3-4 years now, you have always emphasized the importance of data, transparency, validity, and the sharing of that data. As an emerging market, you've really focused on that data bit to fill the gap and to provide that those insights to potential investors and partners.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it helps us plan for what we want to do. It helps us deploy our resources in an efficient manner, so that we make sure that we're getting the best return on our investment. And it would be remiss of us not to share that information with potential investors as well. So, the information we use, we share that in full with investors. It's transparent, it's very clear. We tell people where the areas of strength are. We tell people where the areas that we are developing, and we otherwise we will be out of sync with the market, and we just need to make sure that that doesn't happen, and that we are driving development forward, which is part of the reason why you've seen such a major shift, and it's part of the reason why, like, as I mentioned, you've seen 50 operators enter, 40 new investors coming in. We're seeing a pipeline purely from the private sector of over 150,000 keys between now and 2030, representing roughly $58 billion in investment. So these are key enablers that we've provided. We plan based on these numbers, and the rest of the market has the opportunity to do so as well.
Well, there's no question that in terms of ambition, in terms of preparation, and frankly, in terms of aspiration and inspiration, in terms of converting an economy that was overwhelmingly hydrocarbon, energy and gas, and looking to tourism and hospitality to drive GDP, drive job growth, drive education, and drive, frankly, the transforming of an economy is one that all of us that work in tourism and hospitality are cheering on and are truly inspired by. Congratulations for your success, and more importantly, for your continued success moving forward. Deputy Minister, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alexi. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.